Hello, good evening friends. This is Nurullah with you all. Today I would like to show you three unknown functions. Most probably you may not have known all these three functions, three options that I'm going to explain you in the pivot table. As you know, in Microsoft Excel, in pivot table, it's a very handy function to do the data analysis and put the data in an organized state with a proper summary and dashboards, and it makes the thousands and thousands of records into a very good summary to present to the management. And I'm just showing you some dummy data in which I'm making a pivot table now, which is basically a dummy list of thousands of employees with their the company's records, payroll records. It's a dummy data, as I told. This employees has no connotation to any specific or any individual employees working in any company. It's just a dummy data. Okay, so with this data I'm just making a pivot table in which I'm showing you the summary of the data in pivot table, in which the employees are listed based on the projects that they work in and their salaries, total salaries. So sometimes in pivot table what happens is, you may need to insert one data in pivot table, not in the source data, but that column may not be available in the source data. For example, in this given data, what you are seeing, the total monthly salary is already given for each employee, right? But the annual salary, monthly salary multiplied by 12 is not given. If you want to add the annual salary in the pivot table, what normally you would do, in case you came up with the pivot table already, like what you are seeing now you already present the data in terms of the summary of employees working in projects and their total salaries, total monthly salary. Now you need to show in the pivot table, as I told, the total annual salary. So you need to go back to the source data which you are seeing and add one column in the last, which is the column head shows total annual salary, and multiply the salary into 12 to arrive at the total annual salary, and just copy paste across all the rows and put a sum in the grand total value, so that the total annual salary of all the employees are visible, similar to how you see the total monthly salary in the adjacent table, adjacent column. And then once you do this, in order for this total annual salary to be reflected in the pivot table, you need to adjust the pivot table in terms of in terms of expanding the source data field, for which you have to go to the pivot table and go to the analyze data and select the source data range actually, and you have to add the total annual salary range as well in the pivot table, and refresh and just bring the total monthly salary that you are seeing and total annual salary. This is the long step that you have to do in case if you want at the last moment to add the total annual salary in this example. But pivot table has a hidden great option in order to enable you not to do all these things, not to add this total annual salary column without having to do anything. Just go to the pivot table, and what you need to do is, you don't need to add, as I told, any additional column for total annual salary. Simply in the menu, after selecting the pivot table, go to the menu. In that analyze menu tab or analyze menu option of the pivot table, you need to select the calculated fields. There is a fields. There is a button called fields. I'm already rounding it actually. In the analyze ribbon of the pivot table, there is an option called fields. In that fields, select calculated field. In that calculated field, once you click that calculated field, it comes, the dialog box like what you are seeing is already visible. In that, go to whichever the field you want to replicate or manipulate into. You select the monthly salary and put the formula, that field multiplied by 12, and click OK. That's it. That's it. So automatically the pivot table will be coming up with the total annual salary, which is automatically multiplying the monthly salary into 12 and will show you the total annual salary without you putting any additional column, expanding the field, any of the hassles that you did last time for you to come up with that. So there is a calculated field option in the field button in the analyze option of the pivot table, which will enable you to do this shortcut. Know this one, it will be helpful for you when you are doing a voluminous data analysis. There is another second option I am telling is the group option. What is group option? In this raw data, source data, which you saw, I already put the service years based on the joining date in the company. There are many years. If I put each employee based on their joining date, there are many rows come based on their joining service years. You want to group it. For example, the number of employees who are or the salaries of the employees who are within the company between 5 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years, 15 to 20 years, then what you need to do, you need to right click the pivot table and select group option, give from and to value and the gap value. Automatically it will take you to the grouping function, which will make your life easy. You can make a count, amount, anything that you would like to portray in the pivot table. This group option is very helpful for you in your data analysis time whenever it is required. One more option that I would like to explain to you, the third very useful option is whenever you make a pivot table, it automatically sorts the records based on the alphabetical order A, B, C, D up to Z. Sometimes you don't want the pivot table options based on the alphabetical order because you want the pivot table to come up with a certain sequence. You want the rows to come up with a certain sequence. So you have that flexibility in the pivot table that you have to right click. When you right click that, there is a dialog box menu comes in which you have to select move. There is a move option, MOVE, move. The same like the group option, there is a move option. When you click that move, there is beginning and end, up and down. There are 4 options that are coming. So you will be able to move up or down or in the very beginning or very end. When I was recording the screen in my PC, the dialog box was not visible. That's why I made a screenshot of the move option and group option. When you right click the pivot table, automatically menu like this comes, and you can either use group or move if you want to move the rows of the pivot table in a specific order of your preference. Also you can group different the count of the numbers when you want to put this count in the row field actually, and you can group it as well, similar to what I have explained. Thank you guys for watching. Have a fantastic evening ahead.